Unveiling the Standoff, the Cold War, 1947-1991. The Cold War, spanning from 1947 to 1991, stands as a monumental and tension-filled chapter in human history. This geopolitical struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union shaped the course of the 20th century and left an enduring impact on global politics, security, and diplomacy. Several key aspects of this prolonged conflict defined the era. Global impact. The Cold War, while rooted in the ideological rivalry between capitalism and communism, had far-reaching global repercussions. The United States and the Soviet Union vied for influence, leading to proxy conflicts, political maneuvering, and the division of nations into spheres of influence, leaving an indelible mark on the world stage. Arms race and nuclear standoff. The Cold War witnessed an unprecedented arms race between the superpowers, marked by the development and stockpiling of nuclear weapons. The fear of mutually assured destruction, MAD, cast a long shadow, influencing military strategy and global security policies. Proxy wars. The ideological struggle between the US and the Soviet Union played out in proxy wars across the globe. From the Korean War to the Vietnam War and conflicts in the Middle East, these proxy wars often resulted in significant human suffering as nations became battlegrounds for superpower influence. Space race and technological competition. The Cold War fueled a competition beyond Earth's boundaries, with the US and the Soviet Union engaging in the space race. The race to reach milestones such as the first human in space and the moon landing showcased the technological prowess of both superpowers. Diplomacy and détente. Amidst the tensions, diplomatic efforts were made to ease the Cold War's intensity. Periods of détente saw attempts at reducing hostilities, negotiating arms control agreements, and fostering communication between the superpowers, offering glimpses of hope amid the geopolitical turmoil. Berlin Wall and Iron Curtain. The construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961 became a physical manifestation of the ideological divide, symbolizing the separation between East and West. The Iron Curtain, a term coined by Winston Churchill, represented the political and ideological boundaries that separated communist and non-communist nations. Perceptions and propaganda. The Cold War saw the shaping of public perceptions through extensive propaganda efforts on both sides. Media, literature, and the arts became battlegrounds for ideological influence, contributing to the development of Cold War culture. Endgame and collapse. The Cold War concluded with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Economic pressures, internal reforms, and shifts in global dynamics played a crucial role in the dissolution of the Soviet bloc, marking the end of an era and reshaping the geopolitical landscape. Legacy. The legacy of the Cold War persists in contemporary discussions on international relations, security, and diplomacy. Lessons from this era continue to influence how nations navigate ideological differences, fostering a delicate balance of power in the global arena. Welcome to a comprehensive exploration of the Cold War, a geopolitical struggle that defined much of the 20th century. Lasting from 1947 to 1991, the Cold War was marked by ideological conflicts, nuclear arms races, and proxy wars between the United States and the Soviet Union. In this series, we delve into the origins, key events, and lasting impact of this tense period in history. What were the origins of the Cold War, and what ideological differences fueled the conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union? The Cold War originated from ideological differences between the capitalist, democratic West, led by the United States, and the communist, authoritarian East, led by the Soviet Union. The clash of political and economic systems, along with mutual distrust, laid the groundwork for the decades-long confrontation. How did the Cold War manifest itself globally, and what were the key events that heightened tensions between the superpowers? The Cold War played out on a global stage through proxy conflicts, espionage, and nuclear arms races. Key events such as the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Korean War, and the construction of the Berlin Wall heightened tensions and shaped the geopolitical landscape of the time. What role did nuclear weapons play in the Cold War, and how did the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, contribute to stability? The The development and stockpiling of nuclear weapons became a central element of the Cold War. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, or MAD, stipulated that any nuclear attack would result in the annihilation of both the attacker and the defender, creating a precarious balance that deterred direct confrontation between the superpowers. How did the Cold War impact other regions, and what were the consequences of proxy wars in places like Vietnam and Afghanistan? The Cold War had global repercussions, with proxy wars in Vietnam, Afghanistan, and other regions. These conflicts often resulted in immense human suffering and political instability, as both superpowers sought to expand their influence and undermine the other without direct military engagement. What diplomatic efforts and agreements aimed to ease tensions during the Cold War, and how did events like the Cuban Missile Crisis shape superpower relations? Diplomatic efforts such as détente and arms control agreements aimed to ease tensions between the US and the Soviet Union. The Cuban Missile Crisis, a pivotal moment, highlighted the dangers of nuclear brinkmanship and led to increased communication between the superpowers to avoid future crises. How did the Cold War come to an end, and what role did factors like economic pressures and internal changes in the Soviet Union play in its conclusion? The Cold War concluded with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Economic pressures, internal reforms under Mikhail Gorbachev, and the desire for political change played significant roles in the dissolution of the Soviet bloc, leading to the end of the Cold War. What lessons can we learn from the Cold War, and how has it shaped contemporary geopolitics and international relations? The Cold War teaches us about the dangers of ideological conflict, the importance of diplomatic dialogue, and the need for international cooperation. Its legacy is felt in contemporary geopolitics, influencing alliances, security policies, and the ongoing pursuit of global stability. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the Cold War. If you found this Q&A insightful, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more in-depth historical explorations. We value your thoughts and questions, so please share them in the comments section below. Your engagement helps us continue unraveling the complexities of history. Until our next exploration, stay informed, stay engaged, and continue exploring history with us.